My name is Joanna Moody. I was the research program manager for the Mobility Systems Center at MIT Energy Initiative and a researcher on transport and its intersection with consumer behavior. So I am a behavioral economist by training, and what that means is I look at how psychological factors, people's attitudes influence their behavior, particularly in the transport space, and how that decision making around what type of travel that you use, how you travel, impacts the efficiency of transportation systems and also their impact on the economy, on climate, and the environment. So my dissertation research began with an exploration of this construct called car pride. And it was really about trying to understand the symbolic value that a car provides. And here I want to pause for a second and step back and sort of talk about the fact that traditional transportation engineering has looked at how what I will call instrumental factors, the utilitarian value of the car, things like the travel time, the cost, the accessibility it provides, and its safety influence people's decisions to own and use cars. And what I want to look at is this growing body of literature on how attitudes, and you can actually break those down into symbolic values and then affective or emotional value connections to the car, influence car ownership and use. And so I'm particularly interested in this construct called car pride, which is really about the attribution of social status and personal image to owning and using a car. And so my dissertation was looking at how can we measure car pride and then also understand how it impacts those decisions of individuals to own and to use cars. And my research expands on existing work in two main ways. The first is that often it's assumed that attitudes like car pride influence behavior. So it's assumed that the attitude comes first and the behavior is a reaction or motivated by that attitude. And this is in line with the fact that we would often think about the utilitarian value of a car then influencing decisions around how to use it. But there's an increasing amount of literature that suggests that the dynamics between attitudes and behaviors aren't so unidirectional, that there's often important feedbacks that actually, as you use a car, for example, that could reinforce your symbolic or emotional attachment to that vehicle. And so I want to look at and have looked at this sort of bidirectionality between car pride and how people own and use cars. And then the second sort of wrinkle I add to this is to try and better understand how these relationships might vary by context, particularly looking at across different types of people and different places. And so often studies of attitude behavior relationships are based in one place. You're sampled in one city, or you've targeted one type of person. And so we want to expand that to really understand how much heterogeneity is there around the construct of car pride, how much people attribute social status and personal image to the car, and then also how that influences behavior. So what I found in the US and in US cities in particular is that there's a reinforcing cycle among car pride, car ownership, and car use. So actually, car pride strongly predicts car ownership. So if I have higher car pride, if I have a stronger attachment to my vehicle, then I am much more likely to live in a household that owns a car or to have made that purchase decision. Now, owning a car obviously leads to greater use of that car. And then actually, the frequency with which you use the car reinforces car pride. So as I use my car more, I am more likely as an individual to have a strong symbolic attachment or emotional attachment to that vehicle. And across countries, we've found a somewhat startling and worrisome result, which is that countries that are still developing and have less saturated car markets, meaning that fewer people currently own a car, really have higher car pride on average. And this is after controlling for the different sociodemographic characteristics of the individuals that live in different countries. And so, what that is suggesting is that the car is really this aspirational good. And so there are many, many people in cities in developing countries and in other areas in developing countries that are looking to purchase a car whenever they can afford it. And that's really a critical question when we're talking about the future of a sustainable mobility system, is sort of how much of this demand for travel is going to be met by private vehicles, which contribute the lion's share of carbon emissions from the transport sector globally, but also contribute to a lot of other negative externalities, including local air pollution, road safety issues, and congestion.